All right, we have Greg and Joanne here with Innersense. How are you guys today?
We're doing fantastic.
Doing great. Thanks for
Good.
having us.
Of course, of course. So, since obviously I've done my research on the both of you, but for the listeners, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your backgrounds and how Innersense was born?
Sure.
Well, sure, absolutely. Well, both Joanne and I have deep roots in the beauty industry. We both found a love and passion for all things beauty as children, really. As Joanne grew up with a passion for it, and of course, I grew up with it through my family. And we kind of, through our careers, found each other and fell in love. And of course, as I said, shared just a love and passion for all things beauty. And got married and started an amazing family. And it was really kind of a parallel path of starting a family, having a child with a disability, and Joanne really turning to health and then turning to labels. And that kind of inspired her to begin asking a lot of hard questions as consumer trends were beginning to shift. At that time of my career, I'd actually left behind the chair and was working in big beauty, and really began to also recognize the trend to safer cosmetics, so to speak. And really the parallel path of that really led to the development of Innersense.
That is awesome. So I didn't know that you were a stylist as well, Greg. Is that what you said?
I did, yes. I worked for about 12 years behind the chair.
That's amazing. So both of you guys. So I used to work for I used to be a barber full time. And I used to work for a company called Fellow Barber.
Okay.
And the owners, they're awesome guys, but they weren't barbers. So, I mean, you guys being in the hair industry, it's just, I can bet you guys have such a leg up above, so many other business owners.
Well, I think we definitely both have a huge passion for the industry. I mean,
Yes.
For me personally, what I found going into the industry was just the big hearts of the hairdressers, and just really anybody that I connected with that was in the industry. These people are just healers. They invite people into their chair and they welcome them in, and people get to sit and kind of divulge their whole life, in such a sacred space. And I just think hairdressers are healers. And so that was what was astonishing for me as I started my journey on health, and just recognizing that there is really, hair and health is a huge thing. And we all want to feel good and look good, and wellness being our passion. I think it was just astounding for me to find out that these products that I thought were professional products that were great, that worked wonderful on the hair, really weren't good for us. And so I think that was kind of our mission, to support the community, which we loved so much. Like I always talked about, I just want to raise the vibration of the beauty industry. It's like, to me, I want to support these people that are caring and loving their consumers so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but to your point too, I mean, every decision we make on a daily basis, it's really the foundation of, we come at it from a hairdresser's eyes, right? And I think that that's really kind of, our edge.
Super important. It's very, very important. So tell me a little bit, because you said you noticed, obviously bad stuff, or, bad chemicals and products in a sense. Tell me when for you guys, that switch happened where you just almost realized a gap in the market of just that these, there was so much of these chemicals that were so bad for you. So where did you guys realize, we should really start this?
Yeah, it was really when, like Greg said, we met and fell in love in the beauty industry, and then we started a family. And it was really when our daughter, who is now 24 years old, she was 2 months old at the time.
Yeah.
And I was actually pregnant with my son, getting ready to deliver my son. And so Morgan was diagnosed with a rare genetic disability called Williams syndrome. And so, as you can well imagine, that just completely turned our lives upside down.
Yeah.
And I basically turned to what I can control. And what I could control was my health and our family's health. And so I turned to health, and then I turned over the bottle and started reading labels, basically, and realized that there were silicones, resins, plastics, synthetic fragrances. And then that simultaneously, that kind of set Greg off, using all his connections in the industry.
Yeah.
But it was also recognizing significant movement, especially in the EU, as the EU began to establish some very stringent safety standards, and being on the product development side of the beauty industry, beginning to recognize these very directives that were really forcing change in the beauty industry. And along that way, also recognizing that there was an emerging consumer that was becoming much more educated and wanting safe cosmetics. Although at the time, we thought it to be much bigger, understanding that we're a 15-year-old company now, so we were way ahead of the time when we began this journey.
And I love that, because you guys are way ahead because you were actually passionate about it, right? Which I'm sure these bigger brands are now doing it to hop on the bandwagon and kind of save their asses in a sense.
We started the bandwagon.
Yeah, we did.
I love it.
I think yes, they're trying to jump into the fray, so to speak. But it's kind of a contradiction, because they continue to produce the same products that consumers are getting away from. So I think it is a contradiction to be able to do that. It's not authentic.
Totally. So tell me what it's like to work, with your life partner and run a business together every day. Because, there's so many couples, and, you've probably heard this, all heard this before, like, I don't know how you could do that, or how you guys spend so much time together, with business and life. So tell me a little bit about that.
You see this halo above my head right now? They call me Saint Joanne. No, just totally kidding. I've got a thick skin.
Right.
I mean, it's a blessing, and it has its moments. Like
Totally.
Any relationship, it definitely has a lot of dynamics that we've learned to kind of work with and learn the dance. And some days are fantastic, and other days are stressful. But I think that we both respect each other immensely. We're kindred spirits, and we work really as passionate as we are. We know that we're always ultimately on the same page. We might view things differently, but
which is his page. Just kidding. I'm adding my own humor in here. No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think, it's funny. I feel like Greg and I have like the odds stacked against us in a lot of ways, just from the standpoint of, we watched a lot of couples when their children were diagnosed with a child with disabilities, separating and divorcing and all that kind of stuff. And then to have a business together. I mean, we've had a lot, like you have that list of stressful things that's in a relationship, and
Yes.
we probably check every single box that's there.
Yeah.
I think that really we focus. So it's where our intention is set, and what we focus on is what grows. And I think Greg and I, like he said, we have immense respect for one another. We're not always on the same page with things. I mean, we both have to concede in certain areas, but it is a practice. Relationship and focusing on love and what really matters is a daily practice.
Absolutely. So, not to get too off topic, but I know, doing my research on you guys are very spiritual. You're very energy driven. Correct me if I'm wrong. So tell us some of the stuff that you've done in your relationship that's kind of molded that, because I'm sure that you guys have had coaches and, all of that, which is super common in the business world.
We get fired from coaches more than...
Coaches can't handle us.
Right? You're like these people.
In fact, they normally quit the profession and go on to something totally different.
That's really funny, Greg. That is really funny.
we give them a run for their money.
Right.
Yeah. I think that, we've done a lot of different things, a lot of different modalities. I mean, we practiced shamanism together, which was just a
We started
journey.
that in 2011,
Right.
and that's something that deeply resonated with us, just as far as getting back to indigenous cultures and understanding the earth really
cool.
provides so much for us. And I think there's just so much healing within that, because really the reality of it is any expression in a relationship really is only based and triggered on our core wounds. So the more that we can heal our own core wounds, the more we can show up to relationship, on the middle path, and just really recognizing and owning our own side of the street. So I think it's, again, back to a daily practice. It's something we have to set our intention with. But yeah, we've run the gamut of different practices, but I think, of course, we're meditators for sure. That supports us.
Right. A lot of meditation.
And
a lot of golf.
Great golf.
That's awesome.
But I think too, along the path, of course, as a couple, not only have we embarked in a lot of therapy together, but, working together with business coaches also allows us to really understand our dynamic together, and then where we individually play as well. So it's just about a journey of growth.
Yeah.
So that's, really kind of the way I look at it. It's just a constant journey of growth.
Yep. I love it. When we get off of this interview, I'll definitely have to pick your guys' brain a little bit more regarding the shamanism, because I would love to, go down that route.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So my fiance, who is a hairstylist, has noticed your brand almost exploding, with the curly hair demographic. Was that something that was, thought out or planned, or just because of the, reputability of your brand?
Right. So, one of the uniquenesses of our formulations and really our chemistry is the fact that we utilize very rich, raw emollient levels of ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
With that, we've actually removed all of the common cosmetic-based ingredients that are plastics, resins, silicones, microplastics. They're just there to coat the exterior of the hair. And so when we remove those and really just focus on hydration, replenishment, and building from the inside out, it just provides immense benefit to the hair shaft. And so the curly textured community, multi-textural community, has really embraced Innersense for its purity and the performance on the hair.
Yeah.
And that's why. And the textured community, or the curly community, so to speak, has really embraced us in a big way. And they're very passionate people. So on a social media basis, they're very passionate. But Innersense products were formulated for all hair types, all hair textures, which just makes us a very all-around universal product.
Yes.
What I love is that our daughter Morgan, she happens to have naturally curly hair. So that's the wild thing about it is, when you think about it, it just things kind of run full circle. It was definitely never anything we intended, but it's definitely been a beautiful unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. So for the listeners out there who are, could be stylists, barbers, et cetera, who have a business mindset or want to create a product line, can we give them a simplified process of what it takes to, get a product and get a product line going and then bring it to market?
Ooh, you use simplified in the same sentence
of a product line
going? Roland, we don't have enough time here to go through all the therapy and tears that it would take to do the simplified version. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to say there was a simple path from A to Z on putting a brand out?
One thing that, I think that someone I often say is that, do you like to eat? Are you willing to risk that?
Yeah.
Are you willing to risk everything you've got? That's what we did, right? And I was told a long time ago that it takes 20 years to be an overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is by no means for the weak. It requires a lot of passion, a lot of dedication, and you have to be willing to go and not accept failure. And we were in a very unique position that we were able to stead through that. And it's taken years for us to get to the level of success that we are at. But by no means was it overnight.
And not alone
not
either.
Alone.
Not alone. We've had so many people around us cheering us on and
fans
in and out of the community, just personally and professionally.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question, because you touch on a lot of stuff that is just so relatable, what you guys just said there. So if when this first started, right, was there one of you that was like, let's just stick to the jobs, like we'll have a comfortable life? And then was there one of you that was like, let's do this, like this is the time, now is the time? Or were you guys both very similar in that sense where you're like, let's go all in, let's jump for it?
There were different moments of different ebbs and flows, because I think what happened was I saw Greg in the corporate world. And of course, I always owned my own business. So I always stood behind the chair owning my own business. And so I championed and cheerleaded him on to get out of the corporate world and like, let's do this. We've got something viable here. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then I think there were times when the going got really, really rough, and I was like a rag on the floor after being beaten down, that I was like, please, we can't do this anymore. You've got to throw in the towel. And then that's when Greg kicked in and he was like, no, we're doing this. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So, I mean, I think it for us, there's been, both, we've been at both ends at different times. And like in all relationships, I think that's what happens.
Again, it's not for the weak. And, I often say, in business, there are two people. There are people who can start a company, and there are people who can grow a company, right? So anybody can grow a company. If you have the resources and you have great marketing and you have funding, you could do a lot of things. But it's literally from the seed to the ground, right? And then from the ground to the market. That's where what separates the boys from the men, so to speak, or the girls from the women. It's a lot, and we are very close to a lot of the young peer brands that are now just going through the startup phase. And, startup phase is 10 years. You are in startup mode for 10 years. And so, it's and
it's a competitive space.
It's
competitive.
I mean, for a brand like Innersense to be competing against the L'Oreals, the Johnson & Johnsons, the Unilevers, the Inkles, I mean, these are companies that have endless resources, right? I mean, they put a new brand out and they spend $20 million of just getting it recognized, We've had to do that from a very organic grassroots level. So
exactly. So what's the long-term, vision or goal for Innersense? Is it to, get bought out one day? Tell me a little bit about that as well. Have you guys ever thought about that? Where like, if a big brand that's not really all about, having a clean line were to come and approach you guys with a large sum of money, that would be a hard thing to get over, right?
We get those calls.
Really?
We are being recognized as the market leader in the clean hair care space.
Definitely.
So, we're honored by those calls. No, this is a mission and purpose for Joanne and I. There's more to just selling the products. This is not a job for me anymore. This is about living my life's purpose and our mission, right? Which is not only, educating consumers to clean, pure, beautiful products, but now we have a whole environmental and sustainability initiative that we're executing that's really going to take this company and our mission to the next level. And we're really about building a legacy brand for our community. And I'm nowhere near ready to retire. So awesome. I just don't really foresee that happening. We have, of course, a 22-year-old son who is just entering the business, and we hope to inspire him to really become a part of the business. And as we grow, we're continuing to develop a management team that will also continue to grow and drive the business so that Joanne and I can do the things that really feed us, both personally and professionally, together and individually.
Absolutely. And since you brought up management team, tell me a little bit about your guys' team now and just, who's really helped you along the process of, with who you've hired and all of that.
Yeah, we have some amazing people working for us. One, I have to, kind of give kudos to our marketing team because they really take our vision and bring it to life. And it's a lot. And we're running on a 12-cylinder engine at all given points when you look at all the things that we're managing, from everything from our digital presence to branding to product development. And so there's a lot of things happening all at once. So Lauren Doko, who is our director of marketing, is just, the woman does the work of 5 people. She's just nonstop. And just the ultimate of, dot the I's, cross the T. And amazing marketing leader, Ari Schwartz.
I want to say one thing about Lauren. She was actually one of my clients, believe it or not.
No way.
I met her, yeah.
Wow.
And I did her hair forever, and she happens to be a curly girl, but with finer texture hair. And so I really supported her on her path of hair love. And so she can really speak to our brand from a very, very, very personal place. And so I think that it's been such a value to have her.
Yeah, and it's become a personal mission for her too.
Yeah.
So, and then our senior associate, marketing associate, Ari Schwartz, who really works hand in hand with me on product development. And also leads branding as well. It's just really grown. Also, one of the things that I really love about her is that her roots comes from the beauty industry. Both of her parents are professionals, and so she has just a great intuition about the business, and has just really grown with us in the 2.5, almost 3 years she's been with us. 2 years, I think, that she's been with us.
Yeah.
Those are exciting. And then that's also, again, complemented by a number of other marketing people. But then we also have a team of, within our sales organization, from our sales coordinators, Laura, and our business development people, Adriana and Rosa. Of course, our customer service team, which is Amber and Gabrielle, and then, of course, other key office people as well, and then a great operations manager who basically helps keep our logistics moving. So,
and then our whole warehouse staff.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's actually a lot more employees than I even had thought of.
We're probably like about 23, 25, something.
Yeah.
Like that.
And then we outsource a few of our functions, especially on the accounting side, but from that point, everything else, I manage pretty much sales, marketing, and P&L. Joanne oversees education and is also involved in communications as well.
HR.
Yeah.
Company culture.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So was there ever a time where you guys were thinking of creating some type of product that wasn't, or some type of, idea within the hair industry that wasn't just product based? Or was it always, if you guys kind of knew in the back of your head that if you were going to start something, it was going to be a hair product?
Yeah, I'm a product guy.
We are both like that, hands down. I think it was just like I don't
get excited about blow dryers.
Yeah.
Right. Because only reason why I asked that is because when I was a barber, I was always trying to think of something, something creative that would just make the work easier, right? In a sense.
Yeah.
So,
no, I love that. I love those innovative type
the
of
flat
ideas.
topper. I always like the flat topper.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff out there, but I don't know. It just seems like this was our destiny.
Yeah.
This was our destiny.
No, it's very apparent that this is definitely what you guys were, we were meant to do. For my own curiosity, and Joanne, I know you touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but for the listeners as well, what kind of chemicals are in most products that are not in your guys' products?
Like I had mentioned before,
yes.
Silicones, resins, plastics, synthetic fragrances. Greg can really speak. Don't get him started or else
you can go on for days.
A whole separate podcast.
Yeah. I think the thing that I often say to consumers is that, if you're really interested in clean beauty, just because a product says, sulfate, silicone, and paraben free, doesn't mean anything, because it's everything in between. And so even, again, there are a lot of silicone alternatives, especially in the polys, right? So polyquaterniums, resin silicones, plasticizers, MEAs, EDTAs. Those are ingredients that consumers need to be aware of. Ingredients that are known phthalates or ethoxylates. I mean, these are things that consumers need to become much more educated and aware of. I often say, when you want to kind of dive into clean beauty, go to Credo Beauty or go to Detox Market or go to Folane. These are retail organizations that have developed extremely stringent safety standards and cosmetic standards that communities have really embraced. And so really we are constantly striving to develop chemistry that exceeds the expectation to bring our products to marketplace.
The other thing for your listeners as well is the Think Dirty app. It's an amazing resource. It's super, super easy to download on your phone. And you can basically scan any product and...
that is awesome. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just really, really easy to do. Think Dirty, it's called.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one more question before we start to wrap up here. We usually like to end the show with this question. So if you could go back at any point in your life, could be when you guys first were starting Innersense or even any day you'd want, and tell yourself one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
Wow,
It always stumps people.
That's a great question. I mean, the first thing that came to mind for me, and this might not be in business, this is kind of my learning curve over doing hair. And I talk a lot about this in our marketing and just wanting to put the message of self-love out there. And I just think that I talk about it in one of the stories that I tell about growing up and kind of coming to that place in my life where I was like realizing not everybody was going to like me. It was probably like in elementary school or something like that. I wanted to be friends with somebody so bad. And I went home crying to my mother and, and she was just like, well, Joanne, not everybody's going to like you. And it was like, it burst my bubble. I was like this little kid and I'm like, what? And then I had to kind of relive that through Morgan, having a daughter with special needs, because I saw so much rejection and so many, so much disdain from adults and children alike, and just her feeling. And if you see her, you'll see she's very cognitively aware on a social level in a lot of ways. So it's not like she just, masks over her. So, I think for me, it's just been the lesson. If I could have told myself earlier on, have this just immense amount of self-love, because then it just opens you up to be able to put yourself out there. And I think I finally have my moments of feeling much more comfortable with that at this age, just because I'm like, oh, well, if I can't do it now, then I'm never going to be able to do it. So here I am. But I think I watch Greg and I think that he has, he's had his own work around that, but he's definitely way ahead of the game than I am. So I don't know. There's something for me about, again, I'm not sure it's in business, but it's just I know vulnerability has really gone a long way for me. Even when I was behind the chair, not trying to be this perfect stylist and kind of just cracking myself open and letting people see me. And I'm not talking about in this big emotional way and it has to be therapy or whatever, but just this idea of let's just get real with one another and let's just be. And so the more vulnerable I could be, the more space I can hold for myself, the more space I can hold for other people. And it just it creates a connection. And so I'm so thrilled about where we're at in the world about inclusivity and just wanting to continue to be that space where people can come. Healers. We're all healers. We all have stories. We all matter. And so I don't know, there's just something around self-love. That's my take. That's just what popped into my head. And that's
a great answer. It doesn't have to be within business at all. So I love that answer. How about you, Greg? You got one for yourself, or are you on board with?
Look, I kind of grew up through a unique childhood. My belief is that when someone says no, you can't, I'm defiant. I remember when I first did the business plan and I would go to the SBA, they would tell me, no, this isn't going to fly. So it just motivated me more, right?
Yeah.
When the man said, this has got to stop, I was like, no, this is, so it was just an insatiable desire not to fail, right?
Yeah.
I just refused to fail. And so And I think that, I have always been through that way. As I said, it takes a unique psychology to succeed, to grow and succeed in business, but it's about really perseverance.
Yeah.
All odds.
Yeah.
So, but I will leave you with this. I think that the thing that I also learned through business, and I had a great mentor, especially when I entered the business ranks at the corporate level, and his name was Tom Ridgway, great guy, and he just always used to say, when I would walk in his office and ask him a question or how to do something, he said, "Well, if you did know what to do, what would you do?" It's like, don't come and ask me. I'm not ask me questions.
So, you mean like trust your inner sense.
Yeah.
There it is. It goes full circle.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, I kind of live that. It's like, if I don't know, what would I do? And I think that I try and really live to that every day. So.
Yeah. Well, I love those answers, guys. You have been amazing. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. And I think we'll have to have you guys on again in the future once Innersense gets to that next amazing level of their business.
Thank you very much.
Roland.
Really,
of course, you guys. Thank you again. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.